You're watching Next Pitch, the student athlete playbook for parents raising tomorrow's athletes.
Hi, Anthony Leverts here, host of the Next Pitch podcast. Thank you for joining us today. And if you've been listening along, really appreciate you following us and listening to us. We've really enjoyed doing these shows, getting to bring this to you. And today we have a very special guest, Paige Crozon from Lethbridge, Canada. She actually grew up in Humboldt, Saskatchewan, former player of mine at the University of Utah, has an incredible story, an incredible journey from a tiny little town in Saskatchewan to Olympic participant, FIBA world champion. She won 5 state championships, not 5 state championships. She won state championships in 5 different sports growing up in Humboldt, and just has a remarkable story. And we are grateful to have her here today. Paige Crozon, so great to see you.
Great to see you too. It's been a while.
Oh, it has been a while. I think the last time I saw you was at Taryn's wedding.
Yes, and now she has a 2-year-old.
That's crazy. Yeah, our dad just sent me a picture of the baby. It's remarkable how time flies. Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in here. First of all, why don't you kind of describe how do you describe yourself to people when someone say introduce yourself? You're in the elevator. Who is Paige Crozon?
My elevator pitch.
Yeah, your personal elevator pitch.
Yeah, I'm fortunate to wear many different hats right now. So I'm a player on the Canadian 3x3 national team, and we just competed in the 2024 Paris Olympics. I'm the manager of the Living Skies Indigenous Basketball League, which I'm sure we're going to dive into.
Yes.
I just started my own company called One Sky Sports. And then I'm the proud single parent, single mom to my 6-year-old daughter, Poppy.
Yeah, it's too bad Poppy couldn't join us. My guess is she'd probably do a pretty good interview too.
She probably would do a better interview. She's more entertaining, and she has like a flair for the dramatics. She's so funny, and she has such a funny little personality and character.
I want to dive into that, being a single mom in the career that you're in right now. But let's get to that as we go here. Let's go back to the beginning. And this show, this series that we're working on is all about youth athletics, the journey from becoming a youth athlete all the way to being a pro and Olympian. And you've one of those really rare people on the planet that have had the chance to do what you've done, right? Like, it's pretty remarkable. Let's go back to Humboldt. When did you get involved in athletics? How was that introduced to you as a young person in Humboldt?
I'm so excited to chat to you about this because you're one of the very few people in the world who have visited Humboldt. And so you came to visit me in my town of 5,000 people in rural Saskatchewan, recruiting me to the University of Utah. So you really got to see like my high school. And I think you sat in a classroom with me, and the classroom had like asbestos in it, and we had to like move to a new school the next year. So you really saw from the core and from like my source of where I grew up. But growing up in Humboldt is a little hockey town. And because it's such a small town, most people just put their kids in so many sports. So growing up, I played every single sport that was available to me in school and in club. So I would play hockey, speed swimming, volleyball, track and field, badminton, you name it, whatever was offered. My parents were like putting me in. And I was such a competitive kid. My mom would say like, there's like a home video of us, and I was probably 5 years old, and it's my sister and I eating spaghetti. And my mom was like, "Wow, Taylor, you've done a good job like eating your food." And I was like, "But I've had more than her, right?" Like, that's just such a part of my nature that I think they put me in sports where like you need to channel this somewhere.
So I want to talk about Humboldt, Saskatchewan real quick. I've had a chance to travel all over the world when I was coaching. Super fortunate, and visited the Berlin Wall. I've been in New York, Toronto, Hawaii, all over the world, and Humboldt. And the same year I was recruiting you, I went to Berlin and visited the Berlin Wall. I got to see a Humboldt, Saskatchewan granary that you guys took me to. And it's maybe the highlight. It's one of the things that I remember the most of you guys, your dad and you and your mom taking me out to where the grain was stored in Humboldt, Saskatchewan, and being able to look out and see your dog run away. You could watch him run away for a week if you just stood there and watched. It's so flat.
Yeah. Yeah, and my dad has like worked there for like his whole life, probably going on 40 years, and just the source of pride of having someone that hasn't seen it before being able to take them out there and be like, I have an adventure for you. We're going to see the grain elevator. So
I
thank you
still
for
have it. I still
all.
have the pictures in my phone. I show them to people from time to time. I still have those in my phone. It was a highlight of my time in Saskatchewan. So fast forward, you get through high school and you keep playing. How many sports did you play while you were in high school? Did you play all 5 while you were still in high school?
Yeah, at least 5.
At least 5.
And then
Okay.
I do like badminton for fun, which I didn't do it as competitively as basketball or hockey, but yeah, every sport that was available.
And then at some point in time, you decided that basketball was going to be your thing, right? Like that you were going to play at because and I remember the recruiting process. You were torn between staying in Canada to play basketball or coming to Utah and playing for us at Utah. When did you kind of make that shift to I'm going to be a basketball player? And how did you navigate that and get to the point where you got to be elite while also doing all the other things?
Yeah. So I remember, and I talked about this leading up to the Olympics quite a bit. It was like 2002, and the Salt Lake City, oddly enough, Olympics were on. I remember the Canadian hockey team winning gold, and I remember the moment where it's like, that's what I want to do. I want to play in the Olympics. And Canada was so dominant in hockey, so I played hockey, and I always thought that would be my main sport. I grew to 6'1" when I was probably in the ninth grade. And I really liked that in basketball, all you needed was like a ball and a hoop, and you could go and work on your game. And that's what I would do all the time at the outdoor court, is just go and work on my shot and play against whoever would play against me. And I think that's where I just like found a love and passion for just like the game of basketball. And then coming from such a small town, just was very fortunate to have a few mentors and coaches and people that kind of like showed me a pathway to the national team. And with the goal of playing in the Olympics, I was like, okay, this is the path that I'm going to take. So then, probably around the age of 14, I knew that I wanted to play basketball in university, and that was the sport that I wanted to pursue in order to try to achieve this Olympic dream.
Yeah, let's kind of stay in that high school area for a little bit. On top of being an incredible athlete, you were also an amazing student. And how did you balance that, doing all of those sports while also maintaining that high GPA and being a high achiever in all of those areas?
Yeah, well, my mom was a teacher, so there was a lot of influence and like pressure to like be successful. But then also, I just wanted to be as great as I could be, and I wouldn't say school came like very natural to me. Like Taryn, who we were just talking about before, who I played with the University of Utah, like she's so brilliant. Like she can remember her whole med school textbook, whereas like I had to work very hard to achieve good grades. But I think just like having a vision and having a goal. Like I wanted to play basketball on the Olympic team. In order to do that, you had to play in university. In order to be successful in university, you had to get good grades. So I knew that that was also going to like help me on my path to being a really good basketball player. And I just wanted to be like the best I could be at whatever I was like doing at that time. So just trying to put a lot of focus and dedication towards that. And growing up in Humboldt, it's like you went to school, you went to your sporting activity, and you went home. Like that was my upbringing in my childhood.
Yeah, it's not a big town, that's for sure. I went
No, not a
into
lot of
when I got there,
distractions.
I think I went to the McDonald's, I believe, right? Is little
Yep, right
restaurant
beside the high school.
buried by the high school, yeah. And I
Yep.
walk in to get a cup of coffee and a sandwich, and I'm wearing my Utah gear, obviously, and they're all everybody in the restaurant. "Oh, you're here to see Paige. Oh my God, this is a very word traveled fast in your little town." So
Oh, that's so funny.
ultimately, you ended up coming to play for us,
Yep.
and you had a really good freshman year, right? Like I think not the most consistent year ever, but that's what freshmen were. I think you had 22 against Stanford one night and like 2 against Cal the next night. Kind of an up
That
and
checks
down
out.
fresh. What's that?
Said that checks out.
Yeah. So kind of an up and down, like really great, and on your way though to being a really good college player. And we get into the WNIT and we're going through that journey. And this is 2013,
Mhm,
2012, 2013, and you
mhm.
get injured, and not a little injury, like a really, really bad injury. the run over by a guy who ended up being on the University of Utah football team the next year, and ended up with whiplash, concussion, soft tissue damage, and you name it, right? How long did that end up keeping you out?
22 months from game to game, and then totally removed from the sport for a year and a half.
And through that, the symptoms that you experienced, like every symptom that there was, right? Like headaches, nausea, not being able to sleep, like the whole thing. Kind of describe that process for you of what that was like while you were going through that.
Yeah, well, there were so many unknowns, and to give credit to you and to the university, like had every specialist available to me look at me and be like, okay, let's try to figure out what was wrong, and let's trial and error to find all of these strategies to try to make me healthy, but nothing was working. So some days I'd have like a terrible headache that I wouldn't be able to leave my bed, or I'd go to physio, and they thought that okay, maybe the nerves are just really tight in the back of my neck, and that'll leave some of the headaches. And then it would make me so nauseous and exhausted. I would just go and take like a 6 hour nap in the middle of the day. And obviously, that's not conducive when you're trying to perform in a high level program, but also take university courses. And then just so many unknowns of like, when is this going to get better so I can return to my normal life? Not even like looking at when I can return to the court.
Yeah,
And just
it
like
was.
the emotional aspect that comes with that. And yeah, anyone who's ever had a brain injury knows just kind of like the mood swings, and that was so foreign to me. I feel like I was just like someone that always kind of like grew up on the sunny side of life. So to be someone that like felt negative, it was really hard for me to deal with at that time.
So parents listening to this right now, right? That brain injury and concussion is, as it should be, front and center in our thought process across sports, not
Mhm.
just in football, like everybody knows about it in football, but it's in every sport now, and as it should be. What is your advice to parents who, having dealt with it as an athlete, what is your advice to parents with kids who are going through that process of getting back to trying to play, not really maybe understanding what it is that child is going through?
I think like all parents probably want what's best for their kids, and they want to see their kids like being healthy and thrive and be back to the sport that they love. And I think my parents kind of like had the same kind of beliefs and probably grew up. My dad probably grew up playing hockey without a helmet even on, so maybe didn't have the same knowledge that is available to people right now. And I think it's just like you just have to be patient with the process and just try to get back to like being a healthy person first and foremost, and then everything else that comes after that is just like a bonus. And I remember at the time, it was like around the time that Sidney Crosby had
Mm,
his concussion and injury, and you had said right away, he's like, I think he had like soft tissue damage, and it was, like it wasn't a concussion, it was whiplash. And it ended up like that was what I had had, but it it didn't appear as that right away to all the medical professionals that we were dealing with.
yeah, and so 22 months
Mhm.
is a long time to persevere through something like that to get back to chasing your dream. What did you w- First of all, what was it like the first time you got back on the court and you knew, okay, this is real. I'm going to play. This is like I've made it through this process. What was that feeling like for you?
Yeah, and I think it was probably something not even like on the court practicing with the team, but it was just like being able to be in the gym with a bouncing ball and being able to shoot. And I think I'll talk about this again later, but it was similar to after I had my daughter Poppy. It's like there was so much uncertainty at that time in my life too. And so basketball was always just something that was so like grounding. And when there was so much uncertainty in the world, it's like I could step on the court and then there was always certainty. Like I always knew what to do there, or just was like so calming. Um, and so I think it was just like such a source of peace and healing just to be able to like be on the court and do what was such a normal part of my routine every single day for my entire life.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that part now. So I think you
Yeah.
brought up Poppy. You have an amazing daughter. She's a social media star. At least she is in my house. I get to see her all the time through my wife and my daughter's social media feeds, and quite possibly, other than my own children, the cutest child that I've ever seen in my entire life. So uh, when you this process of going through the injury, obviously perseverance, and you had to learn a ton. You
Yeah.
just brought up the fact that you had some other challenging things in
Yeah.
your life, and I really believe that sport though yours is pretty dramatic and at the top end of the spectrum of going through that. What did that teach you and help you with as you went through those other challenging things in your life? Really expand on that.
Yeah, well, it just provides so much perspective of like when you get to return to something that you love so much. Or when I was pregnant with Poppy, I was working a job that was like a 9 to 5 to try to earn money to buy everything that you need to when you have a newborn. So then to be able to return to the court and now be able to do that as like a professional career, just the perspective of like I know what life is like without it, and just the gratitude and joy I have when I get to be out there and compete. And I think I brought that perspective like when I played at the Olympics. And then there's a freedom to it on the court because there's no pressure, because you know that like this is such a gift to be able to go and do what you love and be able to play with your best friends, and share this experience with them, and then also have my daughter in the crowd. But I think also like back to my injury in college, it's like it's the resilience piece. It's
Mm.
the discipline of working towards something and like knowing that you can overcome a hard thing. So when I've had other challenges, like coming back after having poppies, like, okay, I've done this before. I have like a framework of this is what I need for my well-being as a person. And then this is what I need, to be successful on the court.
As I'm sitting here listening to you talk, I'm missing coaching college basketball, and not just because of being in the gym every day, but the quality of human being that I got the opportunity to coach over the years is pretty remarkable. It's so great to listen to. So you get done with your career, right? You get through college, have a really good college career. I unfortunately didn't get to coach you the rest of that time. That's for another story someday, maybe. But you end up having a good career, and you get done with school. What was that transition period like for you? You have your degree, you're done playing in college. What was that decision-making process like for you, and what happened next?
That's a good question, because I think my junior year was like statistically my best year of university. And then I don't know if it was like a loss of focus or just maybe like a little bit of like a crisis of confidence, where you talked about it before, but kind of just like a theme in my career was like there was some inconsistency. So then I'm going and I'm looking to hire an
I'm
agent.
sorry I brought that up, by the way. I shouldn't have
No,
done that. That wasn't very nice of me.
no, no, no. And it's so true. So it's like I can speak about that frankly, because that's a big part of my journey now, is just like learning that the mental performance piece, and something that I'm working on every single day. Because it's like I do feel that kind of like an imposter syndrome on the court, and I don't know if it
Mm.
comes from like growing up in a small town and not believing that I should be on this stage, or where exactly it comes from, but it's something that has been kind of like a reoccurring theme that I've really had to consciously work towards overcoming. And I still feel that in games where it's like, oh, I don't belong here, so like work harder to try to hide the fact that like that's going to get exposed. Um, anyway, that's probably another story. But back to your original question. So I finished playing, and in university, we just had like such firm routines. Like you have class in the morning, and then you go to practice, and then you have class, and you also have like meals that are, prepared for you, that are excellent. And then I'm going and playing my first year pro, yeah, and I'm in Germany, and it's a town even smaller than the one I grew up in. And I'm in a house with probably 6 of my teammates, and we have a rat, quite literally a rat, living in our kitchen for the first 6 weeks that I'm over there in a new country.
Glamorous. This is
It's
glamour,
so
professional athletics here. Yes.
so glamorous, so glamorous. And yeah, that crisis of confidence kind of came back when I was playing pro. But I also love like the professional lifestyle where you can wake up and you're going to play basketball, and just like the reminder of like, okay, I'm getting paid to go and play. And then you come home and you're like, how long can I possibly nap for before everyone back home is waking up, so you can like start sending messages to your family, and then have practice again in the evening, and then wake up and do the same thing all over again.
And so how long did you stay in that professional circuit?
So I played pro 5-on-5 one year, and then I had Poppy that next year, and then that's when I made the transition to 3x3.
So when did so you're making this transition, you've
Yeah,
got a little baby,
yeah,
you still want to play, you're
yeah.
doing other things in your life as well at that time, and I could be wrong, but that's about the time where you coached professional men as well, right? So I
That would
think that
be the
they're
following
all kind
year.
of coincided it following year. So
Yeah,
kind of walk me through how all of that happened.
yeah. And it's it was a really challenging time in my life, but I also feel like it's like I've learned so much like from that experience because I finished playing pro. I have my daughter Poppy. It wasn't part of the plan, like the goal was always the Olympics. I still want to play in the Olympics, so I'm like, and I still don't feel like my career is over. So I'm still talking to my agent. Hey, I want to go back. I want to play 5-on-5. 3x3 professionally wasn't even an option for women at the time, and I'm hearing from three clubs being like, sorry, we can't accommodate a woman with a child, or we've never had a woman come over that has a baby. Like, it's just not possible for us. And at the time, there wasn't very many women that were playing with children. Like, there's been a big shift in the last few years, but at the time, there was Candace Parker, and she was like the only professional basketball player that I knew that had a child. And she was obviously her jersey's getting retired for the LA
Yes,
Sparks this year.
Candace Parker. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't know, there were so many uncertainties in my career. No one cared that I was coming back to like I wanted to play again except for me. So I just made sure that I was as physically prepared as I could in the chance that I had like the opportunity to play, but then also still feeling so defeated that like I want to go play, but I'm being told that I can't because I have a child. When I've watched so many of like my male counterparts take their whole family to Europe for
Mm.
years. And so kind of like the injustice of that, like what it felt like in that moment. And then when Poppy is 8 months, hopping on a phone call with Michelle and Catherine Plouffe and being like, hey, we're stepping away from the 5-on-5 national team. We've been watching like the Team Saskatoon and Team Edmonton play on the 3x3 World Tour for the past maybe 4 or 5 years. And then hearing from FIBA, it's going to be the first year that there's like a women's series for women. And if we play enough and we do well enough, we can earn enough points for Canada to qualify for the Olympic qualifier the following year. And so we played on the World Tour that year. Poppy like traveled with me everywhere I went, and my mom. She was on 60 flights before her first birthday. And I
Oh
remember
my
there was
God.
like, some games where I'd like be nursing her, and then right before the game, because she doesn't care that it's game time, and then have to like
No.
run up and play. Yeah, and then we were successful out of the 7 tournaments we played in that year. We won 4 of them, got second and third at 2 other ones, and just kind of like built a great foundation. And Michelle and Catherine, like they're incredible. You said Michelle was on the show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So did you qualify then for the Olympics in that first go around?
we didn't because of the rules of FIBA 3x3 at the time, where it's like only one team per country could qualify, and our men's team had more points, so they got to go to the Olympic qualifier. So the rules have been changed now, so it's a little bit there's more equality. But we didn't qualify that first year, but we continued to play and then qualified for an Olympic qualifier in 2024 and then qualified for Paris.
What was that like? So here you are, right? This kid from Humboldt that has had this crazy journey, conquered all the things that you've conquered, right? Like just remarkable journey that you've been on. Injury, single mom, the challenges associated with that, the new sport, like all the things, right? And now you're an Olympian.
Yeah.
What is the emotion of that, the kind of the gratitude that set in for you, or did it take a while for that to happen?
I say this as like Poppy in the most respectful way. That was the best day of my entire life. I love the day that you were born, but it's like that was like I remember taking on the plane ride home from the Olympic qualifier, and usually I'm like thinking about like 10 steps ahead. I need to do all of these things, like pretty anxious personality type, and
Yeah.
not having like any feeling both negative or positive. Just like being like, carefree. It was, and we had the most kind of like storybook way to get to the Olympics because we went to our first qualifier in Japan, and we needed to win this qualifier to get, and we like get to go to the Olympics. We made it all the way to the final and then lose to Australia within like the last 90 seconds of the game. And emotionally, physically, spiritually, just like completely drained. And we flew from Japan back to Canada for 4 days, and our families joined us in Toronto for a 4-day training camp, and then we left immediately for another Olympic qualifier in Hungary. So Japan, Canada, Hungary, and then in this qualifier, we win in pool play. We're first in our pool. We win in the quarterfinals. We're playing Spain in the semis, and we've played them 100 times in the last 5 years on the pro circuit. The game is tied with 5 seconds to go. They have the ball. They miss the first shot. As the buzzer is going off, they get the ball back. A girl throws it over her head, swish. So then they automatically qualify on that because the top three were going. So then there's one more spot to qualify in the bronze medal game, and we have to play Hungary in Hungary for the last chance to qualify for the Olympics. And we ended up winning, and it was incredible. But just like the emotional roller coaster of even getting to the Olympics. So when we
Yeah.
qualified, it was relief, it was joy, it was delayed gratification. But yeah, it was a pretty special moment.
I think that story right there, I tell people all the time that opportunity is oftentimes disguised in this really ugly package that looks
Mm,
like hard work, perseverance, and going through a whole bunch of trials. And
yeah,
it sounds like you guys had opportunity and you made it for yourself happen. The For people listening out there, and young people and kids and parents, like getting to where these athletes like you get to, right? The
yeah.
amount of work,
Mm.
time, effort, energy, sacrifice of all the things that other people are getting to do to be able to be at that level. Do you have any regrets about some of the stuff that you sacrificed, or has every second of it been worthwhile?
Oh, never. I never regret any of like the work that I put in. Sometimes when I like think back to my university career, it's like, oh, like growing up in Humboldt, I felt like I was like so focused, like the vision was so clear. And then in university, just like coming from a small town to, to me, Salt Lake City was a huge city. So it was like
Yeah.
I was so green coming that there was so much for me to learn and experience. And I feel like maybe I wasn't as focused on basketball at times. I think it was like I was making developmentally appropriate mistakes that like when I look back is like, oh, if I would have done this in university, like how would my path have been different? But obviously it's been the way it is for a reason. So yeah, I never regret any of the work that's been put in, especially like the moment we got to step on the Olympic floor and like see the venue. And the venue is incredible, and every single game is sold out. We get to play in front of our families who've all sacrificed so much over the years to like even get us to that point. Like that was like an indescribable moment for me. And when I
Oh,
think about it, now that like as you know, becoming a sports parent, and I'm like driving my daughter to dance and to hockey practice and to all of her activities, I said to my mom, I was like, this was really hard. And you would drive me an hour and a half just for hockey practice so I could play on a girls' team because we didn't have one in our community. Like, like they made so many sacrifices for me to be able to, achieve my dreams. And they didn't even know if I was going to get to the Olympics. They were like, okay, you want to do this? We support you. Like, that is unbelievable.
it is unbelievable. And I think for any student athlete out there listening, or anyone who was, if you hear this, call your parents and say thank you. There is a lot that they do that you don't realize until you have to do it yourself. And I know that's an old guy saying that, but it is the absolute truth. So I want to talk about too. You went and coached, trailblazer, right? You've done so many things that other people haven't been able to do. Where you came from, being a single mom, and then you went and coached men, right? Like, and I don't think it should be a stigma or a barrier, and it's starting to become less and less so. But
Mhm,
when you did it, it was pretty new to the thought process that this
mhm.
is something that's okay. I think that's crazy but doesn't matter what I think. So you get an opportunity how did that unfold? What was that like for you? What was that interaction, those relationships?
Yeah. So I was coaching. I just had finished like my first year of coaching a college or a university team in Canada. I was coaching the University of Lethbridge women's basketball team, which I've been involved in for like the past 4 or 5 years. And there's a new league for professional men in Canada during the summertime. There's a team in my home province called the Saskatchewan Rattlers, and they hired me as just kind of like a support volunteer coach. And I just wanted to come in and consume as much knowledge and learn as much as I could during that time. And what I found was just like how respectful the athletes were to like welcome a female coach. And we're just like asking my opinion as someone who's like played basketball for a long time and has this knowledge and experience. I think I don't know if the organization was like totally ready to have a female coach. There was some. It's sometimes I think like my needs as like a single parent may differ than some of my male counterparts, and that's
Mm.
something that I'm learning to be able to speak up about. Um, So yeah, so it was like a growth experience for sure, and I learned a ton. And I think I also, as a player, took a lot away because I saw, like some of the drills that these guys were doing or what they were doing for individual skill development, um, and some of the things that I've tried to incorporate in my game as well.
So now you're getting ready to qualify, hopefully for the next Olympics, correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
What is that process like for you guys from now until that happens? Like how many times are you playing? What's the structure behind getting to that point?
Yeah, our tour is so fun, but also it's such a wild lifestyle. We've joked that it's like kind of like the equivalent to the circus. Like we'll have all these stops in all these different cities all around the world, and that's what our season looked like. So like last year, for example, we had our tournament in Japan, back to Canada, to Hungary. Then we went to France for 2 tournaments, came back to Canada, went to France for the Olympics, came back, went to China, went to Puerto Rico, went to Singapore. We just came back from Thailand. So we're quite literally traveling all around around the world playing in these little tournaments. So we're kind of at the start of our professional season this year. So we'll have a tournament in Amsterdam, and then we'll go to the World Cup in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, and then we'll play in a few different stops, trying to earn prize money. Like if you win, you get paid. If you don't, you don't get paid. And just trying to make a career out of it and working towards earning enough points for Canada to qualify for either the Olympics directly in 2028 or for the Olympic qualifier.
Well, I sure hope you guys qualify. I want to come watch you play down here. It'd be amazing to be able to come watch. I got to watch Plouffe play in London in 2012, which was a remarkable experience for me. I'd love to be able to come watch you guys play. Do you ever, when you're in all of these places? So I went through this experience. You probably know. I don't know if you remember this time, but my hometown's smaller than yours. So I grew up in a town of 2,700 people.
Yeah.
And I remember when I got the head job at Utah, walking around and walking to the John M. Huntsman Center and kind of pinching myself that this is the gym that I'm getting to go coach in every single day. Do you ever have those pinch me moments like this can't be happening? This can't be real?
Well, when I walked into the John M. Huntsman Center, I feel like I had that same moment. That was like one of the selling points. Like I was so close to going to the University of Saskatchewan, and I was like, "Oh, this arena is amazing," and just the legacy and all the Canadians that have played there. Anyway, but now playing on the world tour. So when I first had Poppy, there wasn't like prize money for women. So then I was working like 2 or 3 other jobs, like doing fitness training or teaching English online, just to like try to earn enough money to be able to play and make sure that like all of our expenses were taken care of, like quite literally put food on the table. And so now when we get to travel to these places, Canada Basketball covers our travel, and we have the opportunity to win prize money in a beautiful city. And with the culture of 3x3 is usually, like we've played in this main city center in Prague, and there's all these historic buildings around you, and you're eating amazing food, or we've played on the coast of Italy. It's like you never get tired of that. And I get to bring my daughter on many of these tournaments, and she gets to see the world. So it's like, yeah, I often have those pinch me moments where it's like like my professional basketball career, and like it's turned out way better than I even could have envisioned or dreamed. I just think
Oh,
it's so cool.
it's amazing. So let's talk about what you're doing now. So you work for a nonprofit, correct? That
Yeah.
explain. I think that when I talked to you last time, you said that your next thing you're doing is getting on some float planes, flying into some remote areas and teaching little kids, indigenous people, the game of basketball. Is that correct? Is that kind of on the agenda here?
Yes. So I'm the manager of, it's called the Living Skies Indigenous Basketball League. And so in my hometown of Saskatchewan, we have a province-wide youth league that, in the spirit of reconciliation, is open to all youth. And many of the youth that we work with experience barriers into sport. So there's no charge for the athletes to participate in the league. And that it consists of 4 components. There's the on-court sessions with the tournaments, the practices, the games. There's workshops that help them build skills that will help them in their life. There's cultural education, where we bring in elders, knowledge keepers, hoop dancers, birch bark artists, indigenous beaters to come and do these workshops with the kids. And then the personal wellness, where we provide food for the athletes so that they know that we know that they have a healthy meal. like the proper nourishment to be able to help them on the court, because not all the kids come from a home where they may have access to food. Then we provide like toothbrushes and soap and wellness and traditional medicines that that will help them kind of like taking care of the holistic athlete. So we're able to serve 700 athletes per year, and so we have teams all across the province. And then there's a provincial championship where everyone comes to Saskatoon to play and participate. And I've done that for the last 4 years, and it has been just a life-changing experience. And to see and learn, and so humbled from the knowledge that I've acquired. And then since I've been a part of the league, what I have kind of identified is um, I like cherish the moments where I get to be on the court as much as I can. So this past year, I've started a business myself called One Sky Sports, where I want to go into rural, Indigenous, low-income neighborhoods and go into these schools and offer like a workshop, a basketball workshop with the students, and then be able to share about like my journey and my experience coming from a rural community, tell them about the league and everything that it has to offer. And so I'm working with a family on Vancouver Island right now. They're having me fly out on Sunday, and then we're going to go on float planes to rural communities in Vancouver Island and visit these communities and do a workshop and tell them about my Olympic experience and share some of the knowledge that I've acquired in my career, and just use basketball as a tool to, you know, help the next generation to pay it forward. And my boss and mentor that I've had, he often says like basketball is medicine. Like basketball for me, for him, has like provided, you know, a healthy way to cope with some of the hardships that we may encounter in life. So just trying to share that message and instill that passion and joy that I experience from the sport.
How can people get nonprofit? Is there a way for people to get involved in that in some way, shape, or form? How do people find that?
Yeah, so we have a website, and it's www.livingskiesbasketball.com. And then my personal website for my business is www.oneskysports.com.
Well, I I'm sitting here in kind of amazement of what you've done and what you've accomplished. Not because you were not talented, just it's just remarkable to kind of hear the journey and the stories of of young people and how they grow and what happens to them and what you make from yourself, and to hear you taking the game that you love so much and was kind of bad to you for a while and then got back to being good to you again. Being able to take that and use that to help other people is absolutely remarkable.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And since like being in a Indigenous nonprofit, that's often it's our leader is a female Indigenous woman. I feel like it's been so healing for me as well, especially like as a mother in a male dominated industry. Because after I had Poppy, I knew I wanted to work in sports. So I'd approach organizations and talk about, you know, like, oh, this is my skill set. This is how determined I am. You know, this is what I can bring to your organization.
I'm
And then
freaking Paige Crozon is what you should have just
then
said.
I'd almost apologize and be like, but I'm so sorry. Like, I have a daughter and I know that they can make it work. And they just like instilled the belief that, like, in Indigenous culture, like women are cherished and that is a strength. And everything that you learn being a parent will only help you and serve the people that you're working with here. So they're like, never apologize. Like, don't approach it from a detriment perspective. And just the knowledge and that I've acquired has been so humbling.
Oh my goodness gracious. I am blown away by you, Paige. This has been remarkable. And I we could sit here or I could sit here and talk to you all day long. What I want to we do with at the end of every one of these is two things. First, well, I want you to kind of go back and build a crystal ball backwards for you. It's something you didn't get to experience with me because you didn't come to summer session your first year, but we always had our players write a paper that was about the template for where they wanted to get to in life. And if you could go back to 14-year-old or 12-year-old, you can pick whatever age you want, knowing everything that you've experienced, what advice would you give yourself as a young person if you could go back today and just tap yourself on the shoulder and say, hey, remember this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think throughout my career, I've almost been like in a hurry to get from one thing to the next. So it's like, okay, I achieved this. Let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the next thing. And didn't take like the moments to like reflect on like the journey of the process, and would often compare myself, and especially with social media nowadays, to someone else's journey and feel like I should be further ahead and like beating myself up that I'm like not doing more. And I think like if I could go back in time and just like I would instill in myself just like the trust that it's all gonna work out, that like trust the timing of it all, because like I had to have Poppy to find 3x3 to get to the Olympics to have all these amazing experiences. So I'd go back and just remember to like celebrate the small victories along the way, and then also like don't rush, like trust the timing of it.
It's great advice. We all get caught up so much in what comes next. We forget to enjoy the moment that we're in, right? Like
Yeah.
it is great advice. All right. Lastly, I require everybody to tell me a dad joke. We talked about this before. So you're a mom. So, and I know that terminology can be a parent joke is what we should call it, but you're going to tell me one that Poppy has shared with you. So I want to hear your best Poppy joke.
Oh, she has many, and most of them aren't quite logical, but we'll get there. We're only six. But why did the snowman have a six pack?
Why did the snowman have a six pack? I don't know.
Because it was the abdominal snowman.
I love it. It's so good. That is so that it's like that, and it's so much better coming from little kids too, right? And then you make an adult tell it, and it's even
Yes,
better. So,
yes.
anything else that you want to share, or that's on your mind that you want to chat about? I've just absolutely enjoyed this conversation, and I feel inadequate to interview you and get everything out that we should get out from you. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, it's just so good to catch up with you, and I'm sure we could spend, another hour just talking about stories while we were at the University of Utah together, and catch up about your family and everything. So we'll have to do that at another time, because yeah, it's just so great to
Yeah.
chat with you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. And I can't wait to continue to watch the next part of your journey here, right? And the best of luck as you guys get ready for the Olympics. I know it's only 25 right now, but it happens fast.
It
It'll be
does.
here before you know it. And I for one am rooting for Canada women's 3v3 basketball to make it to the Olympics.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And great chatting with you.
Thank you, Paige. Hi, Anthony Leverett back here to summarize the show. Just had an amazing interview with Paige Crozon. What a treat. One of my former athletes, and just a remarkable human being of what she has been through, her journey from a small town all the way to being an Olympian. And I think the three, we're talking about three things here, but the first one is growing up in a small town, and it's proof, someone like her, is that you don't have to be in a major market to make it somewhere anymore. There's no secrets out there. And if you get really good at something and you commit to something, you're going to be found, and there is going to be opportunity for you. And Paige played at least five sports, and won state championships in 5 different sports during her time as a high school athlete, and still managed to get good enough to play in a Power 5 conference at the University of Utah, and then be a professional basketball player, and now an Olympic athlete. And I think if you're in a small town, or you're not in a big market, or you're not in a place as a parent where you see college coaches everywhere, it may not be a real dream for everybody. If your child has that dream and aspiration, giving them opportunities to do it in that small town, I think it's such a great way to grow up. I lived the same way, and it really drove it home for me that you don't have to be from New York City or Los Angeles to make it to the big time. It can come from anywhere. The other second thing that I really got from Paige, talking to her today and knowing her, is the power of resiliency and perseverance. And sport can teach that to you in multiple ways. But for young people who are injured, her story is pretty remarkable. She was in the middle of, or towards the end of, a really good freshman year, and got a pretty traumatic injury that kept her out for 22 months. Brain injury, whiplash, small tissue damage, and the amount of stuff that she dealt with to get herself back to the point where she could play again is, headaches, nausea, depression, not being able to focus in school, all sorts of problems, while also not being able to be on the floor and do the sport that she loved with the aspirations and the goals that she had. And she hung in there and is now been an Olympian and quite possibly going to be an Olympian again. And I think that that story is a common thread throughout athletics. If you go through hard things in your athletics career, it can help prepare you for what comes next. And that was the thing, the third thing I want to talk about with Paige is she's a single parent doing all of these things, unexpectedly a single parent, and has now a 6-year-old amazing child, but being able to be resilient from the things that she learned in sport, injury being one of them, but that whole process of being in athletics has prepared her to manage all of the things that come her way. Single parenting, traveling the world, being a female, coaching a men's basketball team. How do you find that resiliency within yourself? And you don't have to be in athletics to get it. But if you're listening to this, you probably are involved in athletics or have kids that are involved in athletics. And taking those lessons that you lose, you get hurt, you're going through a tough stretch, that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Nobody wants to be injured. Nobody wants to be hurt. Nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to go through a bad stretch. But how do you take those experiences and turn them into a positive outcome in that environment and then learn how to do that for the rest of your life? If done correctly, sports can be a great classroom to learn from that. And Paige is a prime example of somebody getting that from her sports. Again, it was an absolute pleasure to have her on the show. Thank you all for listening. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. Please download, share, give us a like if you enjoy the content that we're bringing to you. We're having a blast doing it. And until next time, have a great rest of your day, rest of your week.